Hello, this is Sam, the college and career counselor here at Fair High School for Arts, and we're just going to have a brief presentation about financial aid basics. So I'm going to go over the financial aid cycle, types of aid, and how to review an award letter. All right, so this is the financial aid cycle. Starts over here with the apply section. So each year that you or your student is in college, you need to apply for financial aid. You do this by filing the Minnesota DREAM Act or the FAFSA. You file the FAFSA if you are a citizen, and the Minnesota DREAM Act if you are not a citizen or do not have qualifications that you need to file the FAFSA. Most students are going to be filing the FAFSA. Each year, you use a different tax year for those forms. So this year, it's the 2021 tax return, and then next year, it will be the 2022 tax return, year after that, 23, year after that, 24. So you fill out your FAFSA or DREAM Act, and then that gets sent to colleges and to the Department of Education. So they see that FAFSA, see your financial information, and then based on that financial information, they send out what is called a financial aid award letter. So this is a letter that comes from your college or colleges if you've applied multiple places. And that's going to have a list of all the different pieces of financial aid that you're receiving from that college. And we'll go over what those pieces are a little bit later in this video. So after you receive that financial aid award letter, you then review the award. So you go through it, you discover how much you're receiving from those schools. Ultimately, you figure out how much it costs to attend those schools, and then you can decide which school to accept your financial aid package from. So say you're applying to University of Minnesota, you'd fill out their FAFSA or DREAM Act. University of Minnesota would send you a financial aid letter. You would review the contents of that financial aid letter and then make a decision about whether or not you want to go to the University of Minnesota based on that letter. Okay, so let's say that you've received your financial aid award, you've filed your FAFSA, and you're waiting to see what you're going to get. There are three main kinds of aid that are going to be on your financial aid award: federal and state aid, loans, and scholarships. So we're going to touch on all three of those briefly here. So federal and state aid come directly from your FAFSA or Minnesota DREAM Act. They're based on that alone. There's no consideration of race, there's no consideration of GPA, anything like that. It's all based on your FAFSA or your DREAM Act. There's three main types of aid that you're going to see. So the first is what's called a Pell Grant. This is money that goes directly to pay a student's bill. It does not need to be repaid. So if you qualify for a Pell Grant, you would receive that Pell Grant straight to your tuition every semester, and it'd be subtracted from your bill wherever you go. The amount that you receive in a Pell Grant and in all these grants is dependent upon your FAFSA. So some students will not receive anything in a Pell Grant. They'll get $0. Other students can get up to almost $7,000, and again, that's entirely dependent on the results of your FAFSA. The federal SEOG, or Education Opportunity Grant, is another grant that is similar to the FAFSA, similar to the Pell Grant. It is based on your FAFSA as well, but it comes directly from the school. So the federal government gives money to the school, and the school has funds that it can give out to students. The Minnesota State Grant is similar to the Pell Grant in that it gets paid directly to students. It's the amount that you receive is conditioned on your FAFSA or your Minnesota DREAM Act. So some students are going to get $0 from this. Other students can get up to almost $8,000, and it also goes directly to a student's bill. The main difference is that it only applies to Minnesota colleges. So a Pell Grant you receive can be used at any college in the country. The Minnesota State Grant is only available to colleges in the state of Minnesota. So that's federal and state gift aid. Next, there are loans. So there's two main kinds of federal student loans: subsidized and unsubsidized loan. A subsidized loan does not have interest while you are in college. So let's say you took out $3,000 as a freshman in college. When you go to pay back that loan, you will still owe $3,000. The unsubsidized loan does carry interest while you're in college. So take that same $3,000. If it's an unsubsidized loan, you would then owe $3,200 or $3,300 based on whatever the interest rate is when you take out those loans. There's other kinds of loans, like private loans, private student loans from a bank, or the Parent Plus loan, but those are not as consistent as the federal student loans. They're not offered to everybody in the same way, so they're not as relevant here. Last, I'm going to talk about scholarships. So there are two kinds of scholarships that we tend to talk about. The first is institutional. So these are scholarships that come from a particular college. So let's say you are applying to the University of Minnesota again, and you're offered a president scholarship, pretty common scholarship that they give out. That is coming straight from the school. So the University of Minnesota is saying, here's $2,000 to attend. That money would not go to any other school. So you couldn't use that same $2,000 U of M presidential scholarship at St. Kate's or St. Thomas or the University of Wisconsin, right? It'll only be eligible at the University of Minnesota. The other is outside scholarships. So these are scholarships from foundations, community organizations, the Minneapolis Foundation, for example. And these are going to be things that as a senior you apply for and that you may or may not win. So these are less dependent on any one factor other than your ability to apply and potentially win scholarship. This is a actual financial aid award letter. So it comes from Carleton College, which you can see up at the top of the award letter here. And it's got a lot of the things that we were just talking about. So let's go in and take a closer look. All right, so here's our financial aid award zoom in. And we're going to start over here in this top right-hand corner. You can see the direct cost of paying the institution. So this number, this $52,000, this would be how much you would owe the institution if you did not receive any financial aid. So if you didn't get any loans, any scholarships, any Pell Grant or state grant, you would be paying $52,000 in tuition fees, room and board. So classes, meals, and a dorm room, right? In addition, they also are going to point out an indirect cost. So these would be things that aren't as similar student to student. It's going to be a little harder for school to predict, but they still want to let you know about. So for example, books and supplies is $728 here for you or your student. That might be more like $300, right? Depends on your classes, depends on what you need. So that's the cost up here. Below that, we have the actual financial aid that is awarded. You can see Carleton breaks this up into 3 different trimesters. Most schools are going to have this listed as a semester to semester, so fall semester and spring semester. Carleton has a fall, winter, and spring trimester, so they break it up a little bit differently. This right-hand column at the far right is the most important one. That is the total amount, right? So that's how much you're receiving in each of these funds over the course of the year. So up top, we have the institutional scholarships that the student is being offered. So we've got the Carleton Grant and the Carleton Access Scholarship. Those are totaling $30,650 and $3,000 total. So both of those are a total of $33,650, and that is the institutional scholarship from Carleton. So that's money that is coming directly from Carleton, going directly to the student, would not be eligible to receive that money in other schools. Below that, we have the federal and state aid. So you've got a federal SEOG fund for $3,000, Pell Grant for $3,600, a Minnesota State Grant for $3,940, and an ACG grant, which is an old grant that doesn't exist anymore, for $750. So all 4 of those things are all coming from FAFSA. They're all coming directly from the federal or state government, right, and going straight to the student's pocket. In the middle there, they've kind of sandwiched it in. There's a federal Perkins loan, which is an old loan. Now that would be a federal subsidized loan, and that is for a total of $1,500. The last piece down here is work study, which I didn't talk about in the previous slide, but work study is essentially a program where a student is eligible to receive money for work at the college campus, and that's awarded to the student through the financial aid process. So they're guaranteed to be able to get that money if they work a job. If they don't work that job, they do not receive that money, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in just a second. But this student is awarded up to $2,225. So Student might only get some of this money if they only work some of the time. If you don't work at all, you wouldn't get any of this money. Right? So it changes a little bit depending on what a student does. So underneath all that, they've totaled the award amount here for $48,665. This number is just all of these numbers added up, right? Notably, there's two things in this award that you might not necessarily use. So you don't have to take out the federal loan. So instead of 1,500, that number might be 0, right? If you don't want to take out that loan, you don't have to. The work study number you wouldn't receive if you don't have a job, right? So what this total award number is saying you worked your full amount of work study hours and you decided to take out that $1,500 loan. So underneath that total awarded, they also have this amount to be credited to your account, right? And that's saying this doesn't include your work study earnings, right? So because work study earnings are not applied directly to your student account, right? So you get paid, it doesn't just go to your account. And it's possible you might earn more than a listed amount. They do include the loan on here, which is a little confusing. I think schools are a little better about this now. But so this number is basically 48,665 minus the work study amount, right? Because that's not going directly to your account. So there's that 46,440, right? That's where that number is coming from. And then finally down here, they list the estimated balance for the academic year. So this is finally how much does this cost, right? And the way they get this number is they take this 52,110 and they subtract the amount credited to your account. So 46,440, which is where they get 5,670. So that is the way that most of these financial aid awards are going to read. They're kind of confusing. Each one looks a little bit different, but ultimately you're looking at this direct cost, you're looking at the total amount that's going to be credited to your account, and the difference between the two is what you're going to end up paying. Okay, so I'm sure I didn't answer every single question you have, so we're going to have a few more opportunities for you to be able to get in touch with me and get those questions answered. First, there's a few group sessions we're going to be doing. So on Tuesday, February 14th from 10:30 to 12:30 in the CCC, students can pop by, get some financial aid help that way, apply for the FAFSA or DREAM Act. And then the next week, Tuesday the 21st, from 12:30 to 3 p.m. during conferences, there's going to be a financial aid open house in the College and Career Center. So 301, room 301, can pop up and get some questions answered that way, or get help filing the FAFSA or DREAM Act. And then last, we're going to have a virtual financial aid night on Thursday, February 23rd, and that's going to be from 4:30 to 6:30, and that will be on Google Meet. So be on the lookout for some more information there. And then you can always come and make an individual appointment with me. So I am here Monday through Thursday at FAIR. I'm happy to have parents in the building during that time as well. Or I can make schedule hours outside of school hours virtually if that works better in your schedule. So I can help you with any and all financial aid questions. It can kind of be your first stop if you've got something that you're wondering about. And on the bottom of that slide there is my phone number as well as my email address. So thanks for tuning in, and I hope to speak with you all soon.